Hello, Stepney Greencoat. It's Richard here from St Anne's Church, and it's my turn to read you another true story about Jesus' life and ministry from Mark's Gospel in the Bible. We're reading from chapter 8 and from verse 22, and this first part of the reading tells us about a very unusual healing miracle that Jesus did, where he heals a blind man. But listen out for the strange parts in it. It says this: Jesus and his followers came to Bethsaida. Some people brought a blind man to Jesus and begged him to touch the man. So Jesus took the blind man's hand and led him out of the village. Then he spat on the man's eyes. He put his hands on the blind man and asked, "Can you see now?" The man looked up and said, "Yes, I see people, but they look like trees walking around." Again, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then the man opened his eyes wide. His eyes were healed, and he was able to see everything clearly. Jesus told him to go home, saying, "Don't go into the town." It's a strange healing miracle, isn't it? Apart from the details of how Jesus does it, I don't suggest you go and spit on anyone's eyes, but also it's a healing in two stages. Did you notice that? First of all, he's able to see people, but they look like trees walking around. And then afterwards, he can see everything clearly. It's a picture of what happens in the verses that follow, where Jesus gives spiritual sight to his disciples. Let's read on and see that. Jesus and his followers went to the towns around Caesarea Philippi. While they were travelling, Jesus asked them, "Who do people say I am?" They answered, "Some people say you are John the Baptist, others say you are Elijah, and others that you are one of the prophets." Then Jesus asked, "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." Jesus ordered his followers, "Don't tell anyone who I am." I wonder how you would answer that question from Jesus. Who do you say I am? Lots of people had lots of different answers, but those who knew him best, those who had lived with him, had seen the things he had done and heard the things that he said, they realised that he was the Christ. That means God's rescuing king. But like the blind man, when he was first healed and he only saw people and they looked like trees walking, these disciples hadn't fully seen who he is. They knew that he was the Christ, but they hadn't yet fully understood. That becomes clear in what follows. It says, "Then Jesus began to teach them that the Son of Man," now that's his own favourite name for himself, "the Son of Man must suffer many things." He taught that the Son of Man would not be accepted by the older Jewish leaders, the leading priests and the teachers of the law. He taught that the Son of Man must be killed and then rise from the dead after 3 days. Jesus told them plainly what would happen. Then Peter took Jesus aside and began to criticize him. But Jesus turned and looked at his followers. Then he criticized Peter and said, "Go away from me, Satan. You don't care about the things of God. You care only about things men think are important." Then Jesus called the crowd to him along with his followers. He said, "If anyone wants to follow me, he must say no to the things he wants. He must be willing to die on a cross, and he must follow me. Whoever wants to save his life will give up true life. But whoever wants to give up his life for me and for the good news will have true life forever." It is worth nothing for a person to have the whole world if he loses his soul. A person could never pay enough to buy back his soul. The people who live now are living in a sinful and evil time. If anyone is ashamed of me and my teaching, then I will be ashamed of him. I will be ashamed of him when I come with the glory of my Father and the holy angels. Well, there's a lot there, isn't there? It's surprising to see Peter try to tell Jesus that he was wrong. But like the blind man, Peter didn't yet see everything clearly. Some people say that Jesus was just a prophet and that he didn't die on the cross or rise again. But Jesus himself said that he must suffer and die and then rise from the dead. And that sets the pattern, he says, for anyone that wants to follow him. He'll explain more about that in the next few readings from Mark's Gospel.